Joshua Redman, and I'm a jazz saxophonist. My new album is called Compass, and the whole process of making this album has been a journey for me. It started out as one thing and ended up something completely different. I had been touring with an album called Back East, and it was the first trio album that I had done, just with sax, bass, and drums. And during the first few months of touring, I had this inspiration to write a bunch of new music. This kind of burst of compositional energy where in 4 days I wrote 10 tunes. And I wrote those tunes specifically for trio. But about 2 months before the record date, this really kind of crazy and what I thought was a really bad idea came to mind. I thought instead of recording with just one trio, I'll record with more than one bassist and drummer. Double trio with everybody together. Reuben Rogers and Larry Grenadier were the bassists, and Gregory Hutchinson and Brian Blade were the drummers. My judgment told me, don't do this. It just seemed like there was so much potential for chaos. But I kept coming back to this idea, and I decided it was worth giving a try. The instinct when you're playing like this is for everybody to just play, to be this wall of sound. This was an opportunity to think of music spatially. So with the song Identity Thief, Reuben and I would play part of the melody, then Brian would answer it, then Larry and I would play something, then Greg would answer it. So there's this sense of passing musical ideas around, but passing them around in space. You know, first it goes from left, then it goes to right, and then it builds up to something and we all come together. With this record, I pushed myself into doing something that I didn't necessarily think I should do or that I could do. In fact, I had never heard anyone else play with that instrumentation before. And so it was completely new for me and completely new for everyone. This is one of my favorite saxophone records of all time. When I heard this record, it completely changed the way I listen to jazz, and Sonny Rollins is probably my biggest influence as a saxophonist and also as an improviser. My father, Dewey Redman, was an incredible, brilliant tenor saxophonist. This is one of my favorite records of my dad's, called The Struggle Continues. I didn't grow up with him, but I grew up with his music. I was raised just by my mom in Berkeley, California. She was a dancer. She loved music, and from a very, very early age, she tried to expose me to as much as possible. The Berkeley Public Schools had something very, very unique. They had a jazz band at the high school level, which I eventually played in, but they also had little jazz bands at the elementary school level. When I started on the saxophone in the 5th grade, there was a little jazz ensemble that I could play in. It was kind of an athletic quality almost to it. It was like a sports team, you know. I mean, we had a football team here and a basketball team, but I don't think they ever won any games. But the jazz band, we went to competitions and we'd sweep all the competitions. This is the house that I grew up in. A tiny little place. They say you can never go home, but this is about as close as it gets. I spent 11 years in New York City, the epicenter of the jazz world. But in 2002, I moved back to Berkeley. When we were first looking for houses, I said, no way am I going back to my old neighborhood, because my whole life I just kind of wanted to leave. I guess that's what, when you're young, you always want to go somewhere else. But the house we found was right there, a block from my old house. I think there's a little bit of Berkeley in this album, in the risk-taking aspect of it. There was this real adventurous quality to it, and the sense of kind of sailing out into the unknown, uncharted waters. And our compass was our own musical instincts.